movies can be violent, to say the least, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I remember cheering through the church scene in Kingsman, and Django Unchained's bloody shootout had me on the edge of my seat. But these movies depict violence almost as a sort of dance. They're meant to dazzle and entertain. We watch these movies enjoying the gore as we watch our hero decimate a horde of unnamed throwaway extras. Even in the church scene, Matthew Vaughn made sure to make these people as unsympathetic as possible. Watching Colin Firth tear through a cartoonified version of the Westboro Baptist Church removes any repulsion one might have if he were instead stabbing or shooting through, say, a room of puppies. We don't avert our eyes or turn away even though what's happening on screen is still pretty gruesome. It's because these movies utilize violence in a fun, visually appealing way. They desensitize you, taking away the emotional impact violence can potentially convey during a more traumatic scene. Which brings me to Green Room. Indie director Jeremy Saulnier's intense, claustrophobic, and, well, violent thriller about a punk rock band trapped in a neo-Nazi club's green room after witnessing a murder.
Oh shit.
It's scary, brutal, and at times hard to watch. And I don't believe it could be told any other way. See, most of these movies like to start right off the bat with a bloody opener, setting the tone early on. Cleverly but unsubtly preparing the audience for what they can expect for the next couple of hours.
Why do I own all 7 of these movies? Oh.
On the other hand, Green Room begins quietly.
Just take a look at the difference between the opening title and the film, and compare it to the style used on the cover art or in the posters, a forebodingly unsettling design that suggests a nightmarish story. Yet when the movie starts, you're presented with this. No loud noises, no violent imagery, just a straightforward title with a cool, calming color. Then a cut to a quiet scene in the middle of a cornfield. Of course, later on. But this slow start to the film secretly sells the violence soon to come. It takes time to introduce us to the band members, and while you probably won't remember any of their names by the end, none of the band members' deaths are something to cheer about. Which, okay, it sounds messed up to cheer for the death of a main character, but you know you don't want everyone making it out alive when you go see Murder Stabber 7. There's no dumb jock, no annoying bitch, just 4 friends thrown into a situation in which they're drastically underprepared. Which makes it all the harder to watch when you get a close-up of one getting his jugular pulled out by a pit bull. Again, spoilers. I said that right. So yeah, the movie starts slow, as does the violence. In fact, we don't see anything particularly gruesome until a solid 17 minutes into the movie. And even then, the murder that works as the ignition to the entire story takes place off-screen. The script even goes as far to explicitly state that very little blood is shown. Saulnier decides to disturb his audience with a far more unsettling visual, where 3 minutes later, the body drags along the floor as a character tries pulling the knife out of her head. Although nothing inherently gory takes place, the scene still creates a disturbing presence. By having the camera not only capture the shock on the characters' faces, but also have it linger uncomfortably close. It creates that sense of uneasiness without being overwhelmingly graphic. And hey, just for fun, let's take a look at another example by comparing one moment from Watchmen to a similar moment in Green Room. During a fight scene, a strong professional easily breaks a nameless man's arm. The bone pops out, there's blood squirting, yet the moment passes by so quickly that if it weren't for the extra sound effect, it probably wouldn't even register with you. Now let's take a look at a similar situation in Green Room, where an amateur braces the baddie's arm, the camera pushes in, notice that the focus is aimed at the lead-up. Once the arm snaps, the scene cuts. There's no point in lingering since the tension rides on the struggle of breaking the arm. Most of the Saws and the Eli Roths prefer the reverse, where the focus is mainly directed to the gore and the pain of those being afflicted. Which leads to another interesting theme of Green Room. Throughout the film, the violence refrains from being sadistic. Traditionally in a horror film, the antagonist commits heinous acts either out of sadistic enjoyment or a warped sense of justice. They feel like the protagonist deserves to be tortured. In Green Room's case, however, the intent of a neo-Nazi club owner, Darcy Banker's vicious attacks on the group comes out of desperation. Yes, his tactics are brutal and sociopathic, but never sadistic. He doesn't derive any pleasure from his hostility. Yeah, of course, he doesn't show any signs of guilt either, but that's just what makes him so scary. At the end of the day, he's simply a boss who, after being informed of a situation involving a murder and hostages, hatches a plan on the fly to stage a crime scene for the sake of keeping his hidden drug operation a secret. It's why he chooses to let a band member bleed out and use machetes and dogs instead of guns to kill his hostages. He's not a sadist, he's a tactician. Also a list of other things. Now, what does this choice of keeping the violence more logical as opposed to personal have to do with its utilization? Well, a lot, really. Because there's no one reveling in killing someone else, there's no reason for their deaths to be drawn out. Most of the deaths are quick, keeping the gore in those moments relatively clean. It's when a character survives an attack that the camera is able to get up close and personal. It's in these moments where the film becomes the most tense, where the relief of surviving the attack is short-lived once you see an up-close shot of the damage dealt, which will undoubtedly limit what a character will be able to do later on down the road. This all just proves that violence, when handled properly, can be more than just a fun special effects bonanza. When it's depicted realistically, through desperate characters succumbing to it only upon realizing that they have no other choice, it results in a relatable, terrifying struggle of survival. When the characters aren't professional assassins or superheroes, but real, barely capable people, the stakes instantly become higher. The characters become real, and we don't want them to die. Which is really how it should feel, right?
I think it's more responsible. I think when you watch movies where 85 people get killed during one awesome set-piece scene, and you don't give a shit about any of them.
No.
It's a little disturbing.